Okay, I'm gonna call attendance by, start this again. I'm gonna start the meeting. I'm gonna do a roll call. We have, you can just say here, Laurie,
Here.
Frank,
Here.
Harriet,
Here.
Mike,
Here.
Helen,
Here.
Deborah,
Here.
Ingrid,
Here.
just as you shut the sound off. Sheila,
Here.
Murshid,
Yeah.
and myself. Okay, we have quorum. I'm going to read through the agenda. Actually, is Pauline coming?
I have not reached her, so
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to do a quick read through the agenda, and then I'm going to have Helen do a little update on some meeting norms, just sort of setting our expectations, which we do each month. I'm going to go through, well, we may not get to the minutes, but next on the agenda is the minutes. Then we're going to get some information from our treasurer, Ms. Sheila Tracy. We're going to get some updates from the weekly communication, collaboration, and accessibility meetings. We're going to then have Ingrid jump in with some updates on inclusive schoolyard opportunities. And also Ingrid's going to share a little bit about some literacy opportunities that we can engage with. And then I have a list of things that include Disability Pride Month, bylaws, updates on some groups that have been helping me tremendously, training and education, universal playgrounds. And then we also have Daniel Wong here. Daniel, Carbon Free Somerville, is that the appropriate group, or am I getting confused?
Yes, that is the group
Okay.
which I am associated with and advanced the petition as previously discussed.
Great. Thank you for joining us tonight. We also have Nicole Cannon here. Many of you may know Nicole. She's also Miss Carly's mother. I'm just going to let Helen jump in quickly and just talk about norms and expectations, sort of set how we work as a commission.
What prompted this was the last meeting, and you were looking for someone to be a secretary. And there was a suggestion made, which I thought was a good one, that maybe 3 people 4 times a year. But then I thought about it, and I realized I could not have taken minutes from the meeting that was held in March. People were interrupting. People were not asking the chair to be allowed to speak. And it seemed to me that people were being taken out of order. Now, I don't want to be critical, but I just feel like I had to say these things. And the important part is everybody who wants to speak should be treated with respect. And that's what we're all about, as far as I'm concerned. I feel like we need to go back and check out Robert's Rules of Order. For a group like this, there can be variations. It's not like we're in court or on city council or something, but there are things we should do. But the last time, and it was hybrid, it was difficult for me to know who was speaking. At one point, there were 3 people on the screen and there was 1 name up, and the name was not in front of the person who was speaking. I think, Zoom has made a big difference in the way things are done. And I think it's difficult for the chair to ascertain who's next. And I really think we should set up a protocol. The Robert's Rules of Order book that I went over recently after this suggests that. There was something else I wanted to talk about. I made some notes and I think that's pretty much it. The Robert's Rules of Order that I have was written in 2020. So obviously it was pre-pandemic, and the newer one should be more up to date. So when I get through talking, when I have the opportunity, I'm going to introduce a motion that the commission pay for an update copy of Robert's Rules for the chair. And when I was looking into these things, it made me realize what a tough job you have, Holly. And I'm glad you do it, but I'd like to see us do it in a more business-like manner.
Thank you, Helen. So is that you saying you don't want to jump in and take my job anytime soon? Because you've done that for many years ago. You've done something very similar, actually probably a lot more
Not
challenging.
anytime soon.
So is that an official motion that we purchase?
Yes, I would like to, something I forgot. But just, again, this was by going by the rules and might help whoever was the secretary. Once you recognize them, you should say their name. And
Helen?
yes, and I would like to make a motion that the commission provide the chair with an up-to-date copy of Robert's Rules of Order.
This is Michael. I'll second it.
And I'd like to open it up for discussion just for a moment, because I think that we should all be getting a copy of Robert's Rules, not just myself. If that,
I don't know how much other people know about this.
I would
Certainly it
second
be
that.
helpful. I already, God bless Amazon. I already have a copy that I bought recently, but that's from 2020. I think an up-to-date one, I have no idea what they cost, but.
Laurie, you have your hand raised.
Thank you. In the interest of frugality, I would be willing to research online and see if there is a free website with the 2024 Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay.
Okay.
I got one order from the library, but I'm not buying another one.
Adrian, would you like to add something?
I would have to double check, but I'm 99% confident that this expenditure would not necessarily have to come from the accessible parking fines fund. If that's the intention of the motion, I am not sure. This would potentially, again, 99% sure, quick conversation with Stephen tomorrow, that this is something RSJ could probably cover for members of this commission pretty quickly, I would add, either Amazon or something along those lines.
Thank you, Adrian. So we had a second for the motion, and I think if I can edit the motion, I would like to move that we approve purchasing a book of either electronic or because there are various types of Robert's Rules materials, whatever each member would prefer. And if RSJ would prefer that we use our budget, I think that's perfect use of our budget either way. But I think it would be pertinent for us to vote as a commission that we would like to each have a copy in the format that we want of Robert's Rules. Does anyone want to second my updated motion?
Second it.
A second.
Okay, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. We will.
Abstain, abstain.
Okay, you may abstain. And also, Laurie, you are welcome to look at alternative opportunities, and we can present those to the group as a whole.
Thank
Because I
you.
think that's a great idea, and I appreciate your input on that.
Thank you.
Mike?
And you see if there's for dummies one, to make it really simple, because they can be very complicated. I'll take it for dummies one.
I'm looking for my dummies version right now. That's why my head is turned, but they do have different options, so we will get back. Frank, you have your hand raised.
Yes, so the vote was that all in favor except Lori abstained?
Lori abstained.
Okay, but everyone else voted in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
No, are you sure? Well,
Okay, we are gonna jump super quick into Miss Nicole, who's here. And I don't know if you want me to set the floor a little bit for you, Nicole.
Sure.
But Miss Carly Cannon is our sweet little now 4-year-old who was looking for a swing. And the commission had approved some money to start putting swings, accessible swings in parks, to adding to the inventory of play structures for kids with disabilities. And you all know last month we were super successful with the help of DPW and RSJ that we had a swing hung up for Miss Carly. And on March 30th, I met Miss Carly and her mom and dad at the park so she could see her swing for the first time. And it was amazing to watch this little tiny sprite 4-year-old using her walker to get from the gate over to her new swing, and to watch her squealing with joy and giggling and ordering her parents what they should be doing, which swing they should be on. So Nicole just wanted to come on and say a few words about Miss Carly's experience.
Hi, can you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I thank you, Holly, so much for letting me speak. It was really important to me to thank the entire commission for voting on this, because I think I may have expressed this during a prior commission meeting, but a couple months back, that it stressed me out quite a bit to drive down my street knowing that we were going to see the playground, and just knowing that that nicer weather is coming, and that Carly has basically outgrown the baby swing. And so, yeah, I can't tell you the relief I feel that we can enjoy the park like everybody else. We're there all the time. We're just around the corner. So just a huge thank you to everybody. Really, it really made a difference for us. And I've seen other kids using it, kids of all abilities using it when we drive by, and it really just makes me really, really happy. So thank you for that. I know I'm going to embarrass Holly, but I just want to just say a massive thank you to her for just expediting this, and just kind of making things move and making things happen. So thank you. I'm not going to say much more because I am very pregnant and and emotional, but yeah, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone.
You're very welcome. Is it okay if I hold up a picture of Miss Carly?
Absolutely.
Okay, so forgive my crudeness. Can everyone see Miss Carly?
Wow.
This is my bestie, my new four-year-old bestie and neighbor Carly. This is how she walks into the park. And oops. That's that sweet little face. And let's see. I can play one quick video, okay? Oh shoot, it's Septic's playing in my hearing aids. Gotta love that. Just when you need it to be accessible and then when you don't. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. This will be here every day for you, Miss Carly.
God, you're going way too high for me.
Oh.
You want to go slower? Lower?
Lower or low? Higher or lower? Lower, okay.
So, thank you, Nicole, for bringing our attention to this. And we have some updates later that Ingrid and I will share about the progress we're making with the swings. Frank, you had your hand up.
Yes, which park is this?
Marshall Street.
Okay. Thanks. Marshall Street Park.
Thank you for asking. Okay, now we're going to go back to Sheila. Sheila's going to give us an update on the balances in our account, as well as some projects. I'm going to include the Red Sox, the scholarships, swings, etc., etc. Ms. Treasurer Sheila Tracy, you have the floor.
Okay, I'll give you just a brief, income and expense reports that will last 2 months. If you remember at the end of the last meeting, we didn't have a chance to report on February's revenue and expenditures. So for the month of February, our income from fines was $11,540. Income on investments was $784.50. There were no expenditures, and it left an account balance of $228,971.40. So for the end of March, we just got these numbers in this week. We had fines, income from fines of $11,080. Income on investments, $909.88. No expenditures in our current, as of the end of March, our current balance is $240,961.38. And I'm working on a bigger finance report then I've asked for a couple of other reports so that I could put it all together because this has only been the third fiscal year that there have been funds and available. I want to put together a history of all of the funds so that we could perhaps for the beginning of next fiscal year kind of try to set up a budget so we can see what we want to plan to spend on things we know, and so that we can keep track so we know how much other money is available. So that's a bigger project I'm working on. So before the end of this fiscal year, we'll look at that. So I also did, I can give you the last 3 fiscal years, the totals. So but the first year, 2022, didn't look like it was a full fiscal year, and it was $92,175 in fines and interest income. So it's total revenue for the commission. In 2023, and again, it's a fiscal year, so it's July 1st to June 30th, $109,740. And in 2024, which is 9 months of the year, $86,740. So I think the only full year we have there is 2023, and it's just over, it's $109,000 a year. And by the income that we're getting now, it seems to be that would be close to what the average would be for each fiscal year. So I think as we look at that, we can, look down long range and see what our expectations are in revenue. And then we can look at some of these, some of the expenditures we want to do, some of the projects we want to do. I think it'll just help us to know, once we have, say, we know how much we want for scholarships, we know how much we want for certain events. It would give us an idea of how much, in addition to that, we would have available to spend. So did you want me to go into the whole scholarship project right now, Holly?
Yeah, so let me just give a little context to this. I'm sorry, I didn't know if there was a question. Okay, sorry, my bad. We had voted to fund this year's high school scholarship foundation with $55,000 in money. And we received there was a packet of applications that the Scholarship Foundation gave us. Sheila took those and she met with Harriet and with Deborah, and they plowed through about 20 or so applications. They were redacted, and they are here to present the candidates for us to approve and to vote on, and may also need to make a motion depending on how we vote tonight with regards to the funding. And I am so indebted to Deborah and to Sheila, and of course to Frank and Harriet for all that they did to go through these applications at such short notice so that we could vote on them tonight and we could get these funds to the students. Before I forget, because I know I'm going to forget, on May 29th, it's a Wednesday night at about 7 p.m., the Somerville High School Scholarship Foundation, and I believe the municipal funds will also have some candidates there, will be giving out these scholarships. It's not on Zoom, it's in person. Be great to have some people there if you'd like to attend. Helen, you have your hand up?
Yes, the people who are eligible for these, are they people with disabilities?
So let me just go back and explain the program criteria that we created a year ago for our new members.
Yeah.
So the what we're looking for is there's an application right now, it's only about 5 pages, and it is mostly free text essays. There are some questions about have you been a best buddy, which it directly relates to helping children and others who have disabilities. But it also asks many questions about how they grew up, things that have been challenges for them, why they want to go to school, what degrees they're searching for. And last year I was able to read them with Harriet. And what we were looking for was people who either identified as students who identified as having disabilities and or specifically shared why their education is there and would be in support of people with disabilities. And a lot of them shared, I mean, they were really hard stories. These are incredible students. It was rewarding to read them. And for reasons that my daughter is a high school senior, she does not go to Somerville High, but she does have friends there. I have seen none of these applications. I don't want to know anybody's information. I'm not going to be voting tonight. But also part of the process is everything is redacted. You don't know their names, you don't know their addresses, you don't know their income, you don't know what their family situations are, you don't know anything about them except for their generic student ID, and then answers to specific questions. And based on that information, the group met and has some candidates to present. Does that answer your question, Helen?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else have a question or like
That's great.
clarity on this? No? All right, Sheila, you and Deborah and Harriet are up.
Okay. I will just touch base on the 2023 scholarship.
Sorry, I think I missed Laurie, you had a question.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So the redaction is very good and responsible, but does that also mean that we are not taking into account people with less life advantages from their infancy?
We are solely looking for people who either identify in their essays as having disabilities or identify as talking about, things that are supportive and interest in supporting people or their educational goals. We didn't want to have anything based on income or anything personal. Another thing for me to mention is that this is not a published scholarship. The Scholarship Foundation does not have us in their book. It does not say we are seeking to provide scholarships for persons with disabilities and persons who are entering into programs after high school, graduating from high school, that will benefit people with disabilities. And this can also be trade schools, and they don't have to be four-year colleges. And many of these students already have applied and or been accepted. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
And that doesn't mean next year we don't have to change it, but that's sort of how we started. Yes. Miss Deborah.
Okay.
I did want to say that in response to both Helen and Lori, a lot of the responses did touch on having disabilities or having financial need. And there was one specifically about what kinds of hardship have you endured. So all of that information was available to us.
Thank you, Deborah. All right.
What I would like to touch on a few things Holly said, and one is that reading these stories was very eye-opening and at times very emotional because of the things that these students have overcome to get through their high school career. And I would suggest that different people do this every year so that you can get a feel for the kind of students we have and what a tremendous job they've done to overcome, things that are in their life that they have no control over, but, one after another. I mean, I had to read some and then just put them aside for a little bit and, do it in little batches because it can be overwhelming. But I'll just touch on last year's, what we did recently. We had a meeting with the finance director, Adrian, Holly, myself, another woman in the auditing office, to try to make the scholarship process a little bit easier, a little bit, it got a little bit complicated because the process we were using was that we would pay the total amount, the $50,000 in last year's case, to the Somerville High School Scholarship Foundation. And then they would pay the students. That required a contract, required so much more in the way of information processing, and it just added sort of another layer of confusion. As a matter of fact, we only just recently issued the last scholarship from last year because apparently it was pulled out because it didn't have enough paperwork, but there was no notice that it was out. So the commission didn't know that the person hadn't been paid. So we jumped right in on that, and the auditing department was very helpful with us and got that paid quickly so the student could get their money. So 2023 is complete. 2024, again, we did meet and kind of set up with auditing with RSJ to try to make this a little bit easier. And one of the things we've changed, and hoping it will work well this year, is rather than paying the house foundation, we're going to make the checks payable to the students directly. So it takes away the need for a contract and all the purchasing thing, all of those things that, are triggered by the dollar amount that you're paying to another entity. So that being said, we did review 25 applications. And Deborah, although she was waiting for the eclipse up in Vermont, she took a time away from her vacation. And, we got in a Zoom meeting, and Harriet was there, and Harriet wasn't able to look at or read the applications beforehand, but she weighed in on each one of them that we talked about. It was a good process, and we all kind of worked cooperatively, and I think we came up with a good selection. But we did select 12 candidates because we felt strongly about all of them in one way or another. And so I'll explain at the end about, what would that take as far as if we wanted to appropriate more money for each of them. But the 25 applications, the 12 we selected, all of those students identified with disability. And quite a range of disabilities, a number of mental health issues, including eating disorders, anxiety. There were students with autism, students with ADHD, some with physical disabilities, including one with a cleft palate that resulted in hearing loss. So it was quite a range, and so many of these students went into great depth in describing how difficult their time was but they also talked about how proud they were of themselves for overcoming a lot of it and achieving. A lot of them were honor students, National Honor Society, AP classes. So, and we know that it took them, much more in the way of getting through high school than your average student. So the 12 that were selected, last year, the amount allotted was $50,000 and 10 were selected. So each of those students received $5,000. This year we selected 12. So we really felt strongly, we weren't any that all of us wanted to eliminate. So we felt that it was worth, selecting the 12 of them. So if we keep, this year 55,000 was allotted. Now, my understanding is, I wasn't here when that was done, but my understanding was it was increased by $5,000 just due to inflation, rising costs of colleges, in hopes to give the students a little bit more this year. But if we take the 12 selected students with the $55,000, they would receive $4,500. And we want to get the feel for the whole commission members to see how they feel. If we want to give them the $5,000 as was awarded last year to each student, we would need to appropriate an additional $5,000. And if we wanted to give them the whole $5,500, which I think might have been the intention of the increase, to give them all a little bit more, but we would have to appropriate $11,000 additionally to give them all $55,000. So I don't know how members feel. We can give them $4,500. With an additional $5,000, we can give them $5,000 each, as we did last year. But if we wanted to take into consideration the increased cost of college, like I believe that's one of the reasons for the additional money this year, but it will mean an appropriation of $11,000 more dollars.
I'm gonna pause you right there, Sheila, and just ask if any of our members have any questions or want more information about the 12 students before we vote to accept these 12.
And yeah, the ones selected were, each and every one was very deserving of whatever we're able to give them. So
Can you, Mike has his hand raised. Why don't you ask your question, Mike? I think you're unmuted.
Thank you. As much as I feel I want to give a lot of money to these kids, I also feel that it's really important to be fiscally responsible. And if we did say 5,500, my feeling is that I know my heart goes with you, and it's a tough decision, and I know you just couldn't say no to these 12 kids, but I do feel we have that responsibility. So my only question would be, if we do decide to raise it, what's going to stop us next year from finding 14 people and then having to do that? I guess, I don't know if there's a question in there somewhere, but I do feel that way. I feel that that's what we decided to do. And if we're going to go 12, we should do the 45.
Right, okay, and that was our charge from the chair, was to select the ones that you really were deserving and divide it by the money that was there. So that would give us the 4,500. And that's clear, and that's, it's just that if people felt that we shouldn't give less to kids this year, last year, an additional 5,000 would give them exactly what everybody got last year. So without any addition,
I understand. Harriet, you had your hand up next, and then I see Helen, and then Ingrid, and I'm going to write that down so I don't forget.
I feel strongly that we can afford to do this and pay and give each one $5,000. And I don't think we're in any fiscal danger.
I'm sorry, Harriet, did you say 5,000 or 5,500?
Well, no, whatever. In other words, we could only give them 4,500. No, what is it? 4,500 if we divvy 12 into the 55 we currently have. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm saying that adding enough for each of these 12 students is not going to bust the bank nor put us in fiscal danger. And
Okay.
each year we can make a different choice. So I would love to make a motion that we do increase it, but first let's have discussion and then we'll go on.
Helen, you also wanted to add some.
Yes, I agree with Harriet. College is so expensive these days. And I just think after listening to what Sheila had to say about the people who are involved, I certainly would want to give them 5,500. As she said, we're not going to break the bank. And I can't think of a better way to use the money.
Thank you, Helen.
Can I just comment, or is that out of order?
No, you may
Just-
absolutely comment. And
just
then we're going to
to-
go back to Ingrid.
To mention what Helen said, and I think Deborah would agree with this, even though our charge was not to deal with people's financial situations because it was more about the disability relationship. Clearly from what we read, most of these, if not all of them, were probably in financial need too. Would you agree, Deborah? Yeah, okay. So I think that, I mean, it could make the difference between, you know, being able to, and as I explained during, well, when we met for the Scholarship Foundation, it is a very generous scholarship based on the typical ones that come out of some foundation. They're more like $1,000. It's like the city scholarship fund, the taxpayer scholarship where you can check off on your taxes and donate money. They're giving 6 $1,000 scholarships. So these are generous scholarships. But I just didn't know whether or not we want to keep it, and maybe we can decide before next year too, to set an amount or cap it per student or try to keep it at least that dollar amount. But to Mike's point, he's right too, that it could get a little bit cumbersome. We never know how many applications we're going to get. I think last year they got about 30, if I remember correctly, but
I think so,
20
yeah.
yeah, 25 was manageable, but you know, but that's 12. It happened, I just felt it. I didn't see last year's, but there were just so many kids and we could have selected more, but these were the ones that just really seemed to stand out.
Ingrid, I'm going to let you add to the discussion, please. You're next. And then Mershi.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, it's amazing that there was a response and that 20 people were really deserving. So I don't think we should give them less than people got last year because they're more deserving. They should get at least what people got last year. And like, if 55 isn't really going to break the bank, I kind of agree that it's a really, really important use of money. And for young people to be vulnerable and talk about disability like that and their background, I mean, I'm on the side of 5 or more, but I can't see giving them less than last year because giving them less because they are more deserving or so deserving. Like that seems really wacky to me. Sorry. But yeah, I'm for 5 and up. And I think that's an excellent use of money because I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I agree that it's a really worthwhile use of that money. So I think it's
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to recognize Mershid, and then we're going to go back to Mike, and then we're probably going to need to take a vote to accept these 12, and then also a vote, and then Deborah, about if we're going to make any money changes. Go ahead, Mershid.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for the project. It seems to be good. I mean, the scholarship project, but you forgive me if I'll be drawing you back, but maybe it's something that we can take note as a commission. As we are saying that we should give this much and this much, isn't there a way maybe various people apply for a given amount of money basing on what they are going to do? Because you can find that somebody requests maybe for $3,000 and they explain what they want to do with the money. And then another person explains that maybe they want $4,000 and they explain and they make a breakup of what they're going to do with the money. Then if somebody explains and he needs maybe $3,000 of 4,000, why would we give them like more money than the money that they've maybe requested? And then leaving that at that, is there a consideration apart from disability, maybe some students that are applying for funds or for a scholarship, but when the study is geared towards disability improvement or disability projects? Is this something that is also considered? Or if it's not, I would implore the commission also to give a special leverage for people, or maybe those college students that are interested, even if somebody is not a person with a disability, but when they apply and they are doing a course that is related or can be of benefit to a disability, or maybe things like that, it can also create a change. And then lastly, are we making track of people that have been able to get the funding so that we can be able to assess its impact, so that it gives us another way of how to maybe to refine the scholarships and things like that?
Those are all great questions, Murshid.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, did I cut you off too soon?
I'm done.
Okay, so to answer your first question, we look for people to talk about their life, their experiences. There isn't a question that's leading that says, do you have a disability? Many of these students talk about their own personal disabilities or people within their family who may have disabilities. But what we're looking for is students who are going into careers that would be supportive or are to help persons with disabilities. So it's really, is this person, not just does this person share that they have a disability or they grew up in a world with family with disabilities, but that their goal is to, like last year it was nursing school, doctors, PAs, psychiatrists, and there was a lot of students that had done a lot of other projects that really were very diverse, not just about disability, but about gender and equity and other very emotional things that they shared in these essays. And the way we structured this is that a person gets, what we have changed, let me back up. What we have changed this year is that we do not give funds to the Scholarship Foundation to pay the students, and then they have to give us back proof that they paid them, the checks were cashed. What we're doing now is we're paying them directly to the students. But what the Scholarship Foundation has always provided us is the framework, working alongside the high school's guidance counselors, application that's used across all of the different scholarship groups. And they do all of the administration as far as sending us the applications. They also manage the awards and the notifications. And in this case, what they're going to do is either, if there's a tax form that needs to be sent, Sheila will figure out the finance pieces of that. But they will be getting a document that says that this person has enrolled at that school and has a tuition bill. And if they've enrolled and the bill is $1,000, even if we've said they're going to get 4,000, 5,000, whatever we decide, they're only going to get as much money as they've enrolled in classes. So whatever the cost of the education is, not the balance, but the cost of what they've enrolled in. So we want to make sure that they have enrolled in school, that they do have enough, their education is at least that much or more of the tuition. And then we will be receiving canceled checks either back from, I think, from the students, so that we can close out the loop, so that we have a complete set of paper. We did not, last year, we felt very strongly as a commission that we were not going to simply send checks to students, not knowing that they had actually enrolled in their programs. I mean, things can change. Luckily, the 10 students from last year all enrolled. And we received, you can't imagine the notes and thanks that we received from them that they wrote to our members. I think I interrupted you, Sheila. You had something you wanted to add, and then I'm going to ask Deborah to go next.
No, I think you actually answered the question, answered the same answer that I was going to give. So, yeah.
Thank you. Miss Deborah.
Yes, this was a really rewarding project to be involved in, as Sheila has said, and I did want to give a few details. I was very, I'm an Excel person, so I was very technical with going through things and sort of giving points for having a disability, having close experience with a family member, experience with volunteering if they want to go through a career. And we decided to weight having a disability higher than pursuing a career, but so many of the kids who did have disabilities specifically wanted to go into careers to help them. And so we had 13 applicants who were pursuing careers and 17 with disabilities. And most of the ones that we selected, I would say probably about 70% are going into careers as well. And I really think that this is one of the most worthwhile things that we can do with our money. I mean, it's great to have the community building events that we do with going to sporting outings and the book readings and all of that, but this is specifically helping our community and building on future supports for our community. So I would support giving the 5,500 to each of the 12 students because it is within our fiscal means by a long stretch, and we can make a new decision next year, but we did have the idea of supporting a slightly higher amount this year based on cost of increase. And even if we have, as Holly says, we're not paying more than what each student needs, most programs are going to far outstrip what we are going through the cost of college these days.
Thank you, Deborah. We've got to close out comments. I'm not sure if it's Harriet or Frank has a hand raised.
Oh, I just wanted a clarification about whether the students this year specifically applied for our scholarship or
Nope,
not.
we remain hidden and anonymous. That's another part of this. I don't want people to say, oh, did you hear about that commission? They give you $5,000 if you talk about having a disability or doing something.
Right.
I didn't want it to be skewed. I know that's sort of a stretch to think that someone would do that, but I really wanted us to stay very, to really find those students without them.
But I'm trying to understand how did we have any control over the application questions then?
So we, just like last year, the majority of these applications are redacted. The only thing we have is their unique ID. And then if they have been a best buddy, which is associated with volunteering for persons which is in support of people with disabilities, kids with disabilities, and also their essay questions. So we didn't have a special question about that would be about our commission. We are just reading what the standard application questions were. Does that answer your question, Frank?
Not quite answer. Do you mean, I'm going to reflect back what I heard. So in other words, except for the best buddy question, and I don't know anything else, we had no effect on the application. That was just standard application that they're sending out to their students. Is that right?
Yes.
Right, but can I just add that there were some questions where, is there anything you've had to overcome in life? Or difficulties you've had in life? There's ones about, how are you going to contribute in your community after high school? How did you how did you contribute in high school? So there were ones that could lead people to talk about that. And I was just very surprised how many students were so open and talking about what they faced, what they had to deal with. I mean, some of them I thought, you know, these teachers should know, because there's some of them that named particular teachers that helped get them through, and that they wouldn't have succeeded if not for that particular teacher or counselor. And I mean, they're heartfelt. Some kids wrote a lot, some kids didn't write as much, and I think, you know, so sometimes it was hard to read into what they were saying, but I was impressed with how many kids were, you know, put it all out there for everybody to know, their personal lives. And it wasn't asked, there was no question about disabilities, except did you work in Best Buddies? That was it.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that we vote to provide scholarships to the 12 students that the group identified. And then we can have a separate vote if we're going to increase the dollar amount. May I have a second to approve the
I
12 candidates?
A second.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion before we move forward to a final vote? Questions? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the 12 student applicants that the group chose, please say aye.
Okay.
Aye. Anyone, any nays? Actually, I take mine back. I have to abstain. So I'm abstaining. Anyone not in favor of the 12? Okay, so the motion passes. We have 12 all in favor and one member abstains. Now, as far as increasing the dollar amount, last year we did $5,000. We didn't do $5,000 because we found 10 students. We did $5,000 because we just divided it up. That doesn't mean that what we did last year, as far as dollar amounts, can't change. This was up to the group that reviewed them to bring back their suggestions. It's also not my decision for all of us to decide how we fund this program. So I think if you'd like to make a motion, Sheila or Deborah or Harriet, to fund this and to a point where I don't know what the exact numbers would be if you're asking for. I heard 11,000 would get them all 5,500. And what was the other?
At $5,000 in additional funding would give everyone $5,000.
Okay.
At the 11,000 would give everyone $5,500.
All right.
Right
So we've
now-
already budgeted this $5,500. It's been in our books to the side. It is not included in the 200 and something that we have available at the moment, just so everyone understands that. And as far as how we do this program with our next year, that will probably be a conversation in maybe June, and we can discuss it then. So I'm going to have you make your motion, Sheila or Deborah, how you'd like, what you'd recommend.
I would make a motion to appropriate an additional $11,000 to give each student a cost of living increase over what we gave last year.
I second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? I'm going to abstain from this vote. If you're in, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone else want to abstain? Mike shall abstain. We will abstain together. Anyone not in favor? Okay, so the motion passes, 2 abstains, all else are in favor. So we will add $11,000. Sheila, and you're going to need to send a very quick email to Mr. Bean, and of course include Adrian, just so
We'll
that
do
they have
that.
a heads up that we've changed this.
Yes.
And then look for some email updates about the event where these will all be presented. Let's see, May 29th. Last year I made the presentation. This year I would love someone else to, or several people to sort of talk. Each of these 12 students will be called up. Sorry, the other thing you need to do, Sheila, is, and please don't copy me, is send the student IDs and the dollar amounts to Mr. Murray.
So can you, when you get a chance, just
Yeah.
send me his email?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask
So-
you one quick question on this?
course.
Because I started to write up the things because I thought you needed them tonight to vote, a little blurb about each child, student. I'm not, but I struggle with the fact that we could do it here, but when we write those up, those are gonna be read publicly. And so many of our decisions will based on these students' disabilities. And I'm not quite sure. I mean, we can just make it very bland about, they worked hard and they overcame a lot, but I'm not sure that we could mention some of the real reasons that we made the selections.
Sure, sure. I think that Harriet and Deborah, do you still have time to work with Sheila on sort of getting these little, it's nice when a student's name is called and you get to say, this is why this student is being awarded. You recognize their strengths, and that needs to be in your words. And so I think that if you are able to, and if anyone else would like to join them, we probably have one more voting member who'd like to help on what those should say, to please reach out to Sheila. And then again, if there's 12 students are going to come up, if someone would like to talk about 2 or 3 of them, and we can take turns, it doesn't have to just be one person. I think it's great, however many people would like to be there while this is happening, and or recognizing 2 or 3 students. I think that's really lovely. So I'm gonna remain hands off. I will sit there and clap that night. And I think, Sheila as the treasurer will be the lead on this. So please, you can let us know now, or you can let Sheila know later if you'd like to help out in this. We just can't have quorum. So we can't have 7 people helping, but that would be. We could have 7 people there, but we can't have 7 people talking about what to write. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, talking about what's right, yes.
Yeah. Laurie, you have your hand up.
Thank you. What date and time will that be?
May
It
29th,
is-
6 PM, right? May 29th.
What day of the week?
So Wednesday, May 29th. It starts at 7. I think we have to be there a little bit before then. It's in the high school auditorium.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna go mute for just 1 second so I can shuffle. Sheila, I think we're
Yes.
still need some more updates with you. Okay, actually, let me jump in. So we talked about the fund balance, took care of the scholarships. We have some 2 or 3 other things we need to talk about that need to be discussed and voted on. The Red Sox update. We have done such a tremendous job hitting it out of the park that we have oversold the event. How cool is that? And what's amazing is that I would say 90% of the guests who are coming were informed through the school system. So the superintendent, I'm a little bit ahead, but Ingrid and I had this fantastic meeting with the superintendent of schools and the assistant superintendent to talk about parks and accessible swings. And through that conversation, we asked if they would share the event, and they pushed it out to the schools and specifically to educators who worked with children who had special needs, who received services, educational services. And they pushed this out, and I started getting emails, and they started sending messages to Adrian and filling out the forms. And within a couple of days, we had 72 or 74 seats filled. And that includes some of our members as well. But we have families. We have like a mom and dad and 3 children, all of which have disabilities, who are going to be coming to a game, who probably could never have had, that's a tough hill to take 5 people to a Red Sox game, especially on such an amazing night as Disability Pride. And so Adrian and I have been going through, I was away for the last couple of days. So we've been going through and updating the lists, and we realized we have this growing wait list. And I reached out to the Red Sox and it got us 30 more tickets. So I see someone clapping. Okay, so we have at least, don't make me do math right now, more than 10, possibly 15 that we have sort of in a holding pattern right now. And I would suspect that within a month, we would easily fill some more. And I'm not saying we're trying to only look for families and children. I think it's wonderful that this happened organically. I think we should, it is still posted on the city's site. There is postings that have been put in different places throughout the city. I was really hoping maybe we would hear from some veterans or other groups, but I'd like to put out there that we purchase those 30 tickets, and overall we'll have to increase the total budget because it'll increase the costs for food and for transportation. And although we don't have final numbers, I think we can, Sheila, maybe you can take us through. We know what those extra tickets would cost. We have estimates for what we're shooting for food. We have an idea of what one particular bus would cost. I'm not really 100% sure about cab costs. T-passes are pretty small, but I don't know, Sheila, if you had a few moments to.
Yeah, I don't have all of those numbers we talked about before, but the additional Red Sox tickets are $1,050 for the additional 30 tickets. And at the end, after last meeting at the Holly, I think we went through all those numbers and that we still needed more money for refreshments and transportation. And the bus, the quote for the bus previously was about $2,200. It holds about 53 people. Right now, with the 68 tickets and 30 more, we're at 98 people. So the cost for the food will greatly increase, as will perhaps the transportation. You're muted, Holly.
Sorry, I'm multitasking. So we have a list of costs. We know how much we approved 5,000. The initial tickets were like 2,400. An estimate for refreshments was another 2,700. So we pretty much took that 5,000. We're about 100 short there. And then let's see, 1,100 for those tickets. 1, 2, additional food. We're gonna spitball that the quote for a 53 passenger bus will still hold true. And we would like the commission to consider us getting t-shirts for just the kids that are coming, just a simple Red Sox t-shirt, so they have something actually to wear while they're sitting there as a surprise. Does anyone have any questions? I know, Adrian, you have your hand up. Any other commissioners have some questions or thoughts?
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
I think it's great. And let me tell you, if 98 of us show up, and especially the kids in t-shirts, that makes a powerful impression that disabled people can be everywhere. And that's just so, that's what we stand for. We stand for, we're not just hardworking, but we also can play, and we can play in the world. And I just think it's both a concrete, almost life-altering, surprising thing for each individual, especially the children, but any of us. And then it's, besides all that, the whole stadium, to some degree, will be affected by us. So that's my thought. It's worth the money. That's what I'm saying.
Ingrid, are you being attacked? Sort of.
What?
Yep. Okay. I saw something leap. Does that cat need a Red Sox t-shirt? No, I know that some of us are not as keen about providing opportunities for inclusive recreation, and I respect everyone's opinions and thoughts. And always hope that people can bring other events to the table, similarly to the scholarships that we have. And clearly we're adding lots of accessible play structures within the city. We are looking at some educational materials, books, good stories written by people about people with disabilities, especially those for children, educational materials for adults who have children who may be newly diagnosed with different disabilities and need some assistance. Also some opportunities to partner with the veterans. But I see Laurie has her hands up. Would you like to, what are
Yes,
your thoughts, Laurie?
thank you. Regarding Harriet's comment about, it would be so good to make us visible, pardon the unpun there with the t-shirts. Well, are all of our attendees sitting together? You know, all
I love NXT's
looking,
wrestling.
you know, or would
One
the-
second, Manu. We're going to
Okay.
put you on mute for just a moment, okay? Sorry, Laurie, go ahead. Go right ahead, Laurie, sorry.
Oh, okay. And also if they just have t-shirts, so a lot of people have t-shirts, maybe something that says like Disability Pride Day, Red Sox.
I think that Sheila had some thoughts about designing a t-shirt. And I think that you and Sheila and somebody else should definitely look into that to see what sounds cool for our kids. Anyone else have any comments or about adding more tickets and funding this event for more children in the city? I still think we're gonna have to try to win
Can
it.
I help with the event?
Can you help with the event? I think we can talk about that at another time. Are you, Minu, forgive me, I know you've been on our meetings before. Do you live in Somerville?
I live in Alexandria.
Virginia, that's right. Yes, I remember. It's nice to see you again. I'm gonna have to put you back on mute just so we can keep going through what's on our agenda. It's very nice to see you here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nicole, you had your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Just wanted to kind of echo Harriet's comments about kind of descending upon Fenway Park as a group and how impactful I know that will be for Carly. We are knee deep in discussion about disability pride, being proud of yourself. And I'm really, really thankful for to be included in this event. And I love the idea about putting disability pride, if I can just say my opinion about the t-shirts. I think just something I have no ideas at the current moment, but just something disability related on the t-shirt I think would be fantastic.
You're muted, Holly.
Sorry. Adrian, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, just given this news of more tickets, it would be helpful if you and or Sheila can email myself, Hawken, and Stephen tomorrow, because I'm assuming that invoice is going to have to be processed pretty quickly. So Stephen will need all that information. Right now, we have only had 2 or 3 people shown interest in a bus. That may increase now that the ticket people number has increased, but that doesn't change anything there. We have a lot of folks who are very interested in the T-passes, which is an option, just voicing that. And then similarly with the T-shirts, sooner the better on that, because in terms of design, production, sizing, you're about a month out from the event at this point. So just voicing those things.
Thank you. I appreciate all of the.
Can I ask Adrian one question? Adrian, when people talked about wanting the taxi vouchers, is that because they don't want to use the bus, or would they be?
So we So we gave them options, and what I'm getting back, Holly and I haven't circled up on the people she's engaged with from this outreach with the school system, because I don't have contact info for those folks. So there's about 30 folks right now who I think are unaccounted for in terms of what they want to do. But the choices were on the JOT form, and then I followed up with the folks whose emails I got directly. And the majority of them chose either getting a T-Pass. A couple people are driving themselves because they have car setups that are the most accessible to them and their families or their child. And then a lot of folks want to either use the cab or take the T. So I do think there are some boundaries there for giving people a choice. You know, I think we sort of have to honor those choices in the most efficient way possible. Chances are with this increase, there could be more interest in the bus, especially with some of these families, you know, who have 4 or 5 individuals going.
Right.
But just voicing that,
It just seems like if we were able to use the bus for a large number of people, it would be more efficient and even getting there at the same time and sort of, you know, keep
Sure.
control over the whole situation.
Sure, and I certainly understand that, Sheila, but at this point, we've given
Yeah.
people a choice, so, you
No,
know.
I know, and there might be some people, for whatever reason, they may not be able to get to wherever we meet for the bus, and they may need to just.
Yeah, so there's work life, there's family life, there's all, you know, it's an evening time of day on a Monday, so, you know, those are things we sort of have to think about. But the sooner the better on all that information, especially with the T-shirts. And I think that's the only thoughts I had right now.
I think if you can get an update on that quote from that bus company when we're looking at the Celtics, what are they called? I know it was like
On the coach.
2,200. So we can use that as a ballpark.
218.
Is that something you think you have time to do, or I'm happy to call and just ask them to change the dates and confirm?
They can probably get that for me by the end of the week.
Okay.
I think the priority is getting this updated invoice paid, because obviously that's going to be a short turnaround, and Stephen will need that information. And then Hawken may have capacity to help with the shirts, because that is going to take another vendor and an invoice and sizing and all of those things. And then Holly, as I mentioned a couple times, I do need whatever contact info you have for the folks you've engaged with, so we can confirm transportation. And you said there are 30 more tickets?
Yeah.
So I will voice this for folks from this commission who have not RSVP'd yet. Given the interest, if you are interested in going, we need to know by tomorrow so you don't lose a spot to somebody else.
Miss Laurie?
Thank you. Regarding the T-shirts, how can we know what sizes, or is that unrealistic?
So the families that I've spoken to are very quick to reply.
Okay,
And
thank
I'm
you.
thinking that we should probably you can pretty much get T-shirts printed in a couple of days. And actually there's a local vendor in Somerville that I know closely that will turn them around for us, and will definitely, you know, depending on how I do think they might already be a vendor with the city, but I think I'm not as concerned about finding out the sizes. And we do have a month. It's making sure that whatever vendor we use is already set up in the city, and that piece isn't a hurdle. And that we can quickly give them something of sort of like what a design is. So,
Great, thank you.
yeah. And as far as the invoice, shoot, did I print a copy of it? 1 second.
I have it here. Do you want the number, or
What does it say for the date?
the due date is April 23rd?
Okay, so in the past that they've been extremely lenient, and I'm sure they'll give us beyond April 23rd. And all that I had to do last time was say to them, the check is being mailed. This is the check number. And it went like a week beyond that. So we probably have, you know what today is, at least 2 weeks, but we'll figure out what the process is. You have the invoice. You need to make sure that Stephen can enter that, has time to enter that, and that Ed is able to expedite it. One of those unforeseen blessings where we have more kids who want to come to a baseball game than we thought we would have.
Holly, I'm sorry, through the chair, I don't mean to interrupt, but I forgot
you're
to mention
fine.
that. It would be most helpful as this commission continues to outreach to whoever you do, to have folks, if they are not going to utilize the JOT form, that is fine, to please just use the ADA email. And that way it's coming in and I can pop it in the spreadsheet pretty readily. And so I think just having one central email for RSVPs, if people are not going to use the JOT form, which is fine, would be helpful as we fulfill these 30 seats.
That brings up a topic that I don't think we have time for
Okay.
tonight, as far as the ADA at Somerville email. And people have had issues trying to connect actually with the commission and find us. And I know we spoke about having our own email address or having a Gmail address associated with us, and whatever email address that the city would give us would obviously include you when it was sent, but also myself or someone else from the commission, because it's really hard for people to find us. And that's been a real struggle for us.
Yeah, I do have an answer to that if you want it now, or I can share with you tomorrow.
That's fine.
Yeah. So at this point in time, it will remain commissions and boards do not get separate emails from the staff liaison. And that is for a multitude of reasons. Chairs change, commission makeups change, staffing changes. So right now it will remain the ADA email. Anybody on the commission is more than welcome to create their own personal email for commission business, but the email that is published to the city website will for now be the ADA email.
That's fine for all the ADA things, but I think we can certainly discuss having an email address for the commission that's listed with our names on our webpage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
We have other stuff we have to get done.
Forgive me, I have 10,000 things running through my head. So Sheila, you've got the invoice. We still need to vote on expending additional money for these tickets, as well as what it's going to cost. We know that we have not had a huge amount of push for bus. I also am not sure if people, when they see the word bus, understand that it's sort of a large bus, not an MBTA bus. I do love the fact that people want to take the T, and that's an easy way to give them transportation. And then the cab piece, Adrian, I don't have any contacts yet. I think that Sheila might have spoken with the Council on Aging, and we were trying to figure out how to follow what they do now for cabs. So assuming that the cost of that bus is the same, and not knowing how much a green cab might cost us, kind of need to figure that in so we can vote on a dollar amount for this event. Anyone have an idea of what we might budget for a green cab voucher? Yes, Miss Harriet.
I was going to just actually say blanketly, we've got to approximate, which is what we did in the last Red Sox.
Can you say
event.
that? Oh, could you say that again? I had a hard time hearing you.
Okay, I said that in the last arrangements for the previous game last year, we had to approximate. So it seems to me that if we can approximate, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000 inclusive of tickets, transportation, and food. It is, no puns intended, but if it's in the ballpark, we don't have to spend that much money, but we haven't budgeted because our next commission meeting, we'd have to have a special meeting to vote on this, and that would be silly. I think.
Yes, it would. So,
What do you think, Sheila?
Well, I do, I mean, I think Holly kind of has ballparked the number, but I think we do, if we vote to appropriate a larger portion, because we don't want to be caught short, doesn't need to be spent. And it will just stay in our funds. So if we say X amount of dollars, because we don't have, this is our last meeting before the ball game. So we would have to have a special meeting if we go over the amount that is spent. So I think Holly has some rough estimates, but I think that we just go on and be more liberal with the amount that we authorize so that we won't be caught short.
all right, so we had originally funded $5,000, which covers the first 68 tickets and refreshments for 68 people. So that takes care of that. What we don't have is green line, yellow cab costs.
No, and if I'm sorry, it seems like a lot of people are opting for that. So I mean, I think.
Do you think $100 is crazy for a round trip cab ride?
Anybody that takes cabs into Boston often might have an idea. It's good. I don't know. It used to be always like $25 or so to get in, 25 to get out, but it could be more than that now. And plus a gratuity. One of the things that I was hoping to do is to talk to the Council on Aging, just because I went through it with the system they have for taxi vouchers is a little bit different. It's a little bit more convoluted, a lot of legwork, a lot of paperwork. But I would like to talk to them about perhaps just for this event, allowing us to use this voucher system to get invoiced by Green Cab. So I think we can do that as long as they agree to sort of partnering with us, make it easier. And I don't know, they might have better, well, I don't know what a cab is right now into Boston.
All right, well, we know that a bus is about $2,300. We know that food is going to be an additional, again, these are estimates, $1,200. And I throw out there, I mean, I can't imagine that we would need this many t-shirts, but $1,000 for t-shirts.
Ticket costs too, right? The extra tickets.
Yeah, so I've got the bus, the food, the shirts, and the tickets were $1,050. So $1,100 for the ticket.
We also have to remember on the transportation side that we may need to be getting wheelchair accessible transportation.
Okay. All right, so anyone want to spitball a cab amount out there? I would say during an event in Kenmore Square, it could easily be $40 to get each way.
Okay.
Does anyone feel strongly it would be higher or lower?
I think that's right. I mean, in midday Sunday, going to Arlington Street Church, Arlington and Boylston, the normal fee would be it was $46 one time, but I have anyone that has an MBTA ride account can put themselves or may already be on what's called the Lyft Pilot. I only pay $3 for any cab ride within this bigger area, right? $3.
I'm riding with you next time. All right, so Helen, you have your hand up.
I'm quite sure the Council on Aging has a set amount for where you're going. You know,
Yeah.
this is good business for them. And, you know, people can get all kinds of rides through the Council on Aging. And I just think if you were to call them Or maybe have somebody at the Council on Aging call them because they have so much contact with them. You could get a flat price as opposed to sometimes in cabs, depends on which way they go and the
Right.
time of day.
No, that's a good point, Helen, because I did meet with the people at the Council on Aging that handle it, and they explained the whole system. They just kind of get invoiced by Green Cab. Okay, Green Cab, and they give the names of the people that are, eligible. So I'm gonna hope that they will let us kind of use that system and then invoice us for that one night's, all of those cab rides, because their cab rides typically during the day, they're for medical visits, food shopping, prescription pickup. So, it's a little different than what we need right now, but that's a good point.
So just to explain this whole funding mystery, we have estimates. We are voting to a ceiling. This is how much we're going to dedicate to this event. There, of course, will be transparency. We'll go over expenses after the event. We'll make sure everyone understands what was spent. It'll all get recorded through the treasurer back to the city. And looking at a cost of a bus, estimate $40 a person for food, t-shirts, the additional tickets, throwing a ridiculous number out there for cab and a wheelchair accessible van, it brings me to about $10,000. And I would probably bump it up to 12 just as buffer. So if we were to say that we've approved 5, we're going to approve 12 more, we're at $17,000, but that's for 98 people, almost 100 people to go to a baseball game. That's $170 a person. That's food, transportation, and tickets, and t-shirts for all the kids. And the food by itself is like a $40 estimate. So we're looking at $170. So $130 gets you a ticket, a ride there, and your free hat. Does anyone object? Anyone want to share comments on my suggestion that we vote to increase it for $12,000 more for a total of $17,000, and we'll get 98 people to a baseball game?
Yeah, well, one of my thoughts originally was with 98 people, we might need 2 buses, but if many people are opting for the cabs, maybe not. So we didn't include that second bus because it might actually work out if more people want to take a cab. We would, that bus holds 53 people.
Yeah, and that $2,000 buffer.
Well, yeah, that should
And again,
cover it.
I don't think it's going to cost us $1,000 for t-shirts.
Right.
I don't think we
so
should be
either.
spending $1,000 on t-shirts, but that's where I threw that crazy number in.
But
Does
that would be a buffer.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions before I call a motion? Okay, I'm gonna call a motion that we vote to increase to fund an additional $12,000 for our Red Sox event for a total of $17,000 in funding, which will provide food, transportation, tickets, hats, t-shirts. For everyone gets a hat. All the little kids will get a shirt, and we will have an accounting after the event of how monies are sold. May I have a second to my motion?
Second it.
Any questions, concerns, discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone prefer to abstain from voting? Mike, okay. Anyone opposed to the motion? Okay, so the motion passes. Mike, we have 1 abstain, and the remaining voting members have approved it. Okay, racing down the list. No,
Finish line is just ahead, right?
8:30. Okay. Well, I got you out altogether. Hold on, Harriet, I apologize. Sheila, is there anything else? Oh, swings. Okay. We've got to talk about funding swings. So we put out there $5,000 for a swing for Carly. And I have a quote from the vendor that the city uses to buy these swings, are called Gen swings. They're about $800 a pop. DPW will put them in on days that it rains. So there won't be any additional costs or overages and salaries to be hanging swings, which is literally like clip, unclip, clip, unclip. They said to order them in groups of 10. So because they are quite large, so that they can put them in, east from west. We're going to distribute them evenly across all of the different city parks. The goal is to take any little kid swing. So they're like sort of like a little bucket, and they sit in, their legs go out the front, and they have a little sort of a little support around them. They're not sort of like a banana wide swing. These are not to change existing swings that are in place for older people. These are to have swings that will be more support for a small child and will grow up to 150-pound person who needs that additional support in these types of swings. It's the same swing that you saw Carly using. So we voted to have $5,000 towards swings. We have an invoice for $8,000 and change to order the first 10 swings. I think that I think I'd like us to vote to order enough for 20 swings at this point. And we can talk about it on our next meeting, where we're at, how many we've ordered, what we've put in, and the placement. The reason I'm saying that is there's about a 3-week ordering process before they'll get in. So I'd like us to have, order 10, and then maybe a week or two later, order another 10. So they'll start coming in. The DPW gave us a list of how many swings, baby swings, exist at the parks. And our goal is to replace one at each of those parks with a different swing. As far as, I'm sorry, Ingrid, I'm going to steal some of your thunder. I apologize. Actually, you know what, Ingrid? Let's talk quickly about superintendent and vice superintendent meeting.
Oh, it was so wonderful. Ingrid, it was so wonderful. They were delighted to see us and really enthusiastic about our priority of equity and inclusion and really visibility. I mean, they were really, really excited and supported to help us put more in, and instantly volunteered to, I think, go around that week or, the next weekend and like look at all the parks and give us the numbers on Monday morning. And they were really, really enthusiastic, and even had the idea that like we should take one of the handicap swings and put it amongst the regular swings so that it would really be inclusive for all the children to be playing together. Yeah, so it was just a really, really positive meeting, and they were really excited, and they really were kind of laying down and telling us what they needed from them for us to do it. So it was really very encouraging. It was awesome. They were so good. Sorry.
No, sorry.
No need to apologize. I agree. I thought we were, we got introduced or connected to the superintendent through a member of the school committee who I asked. I said, can you help us, introduce us? We really need their support. We need to understand if this is something that, because every school's playground is, part of the superintendent and managed by the individual principals. It's their community, it's their group of children. And I didn't want to feel like we were pushing in a swing. I wanted them to understand why we feel accessible play is important and ask if they would be interested in us adding to the inventory. And it was the complete opposite. It was like, please come help us. We would love for you to help us with swings. Bring as many as you can. Can you bring these things in? And it was, literally Ingrid and I were like partly in tears. And what I did get 3 days later was a list of the individual playgrounds of, sort of priorities, which schools have some now, and then schools that are in need. And what I also found interesting was, well, there's 2 things here. There's the Winter Hill School is going to be, it's going to take 6 or 7 years before those students get back into the new Winter Hill School once it gets demolished, rebuilt, but that playground is going to be there for 6 or 7 years for the students, for the community, and that's my neighborhood. And currently there are no accessible swings. There are no swings for little kids. So they asked if we would provide them with 3 swings, 3 accessible swings, and also the little, it's like a T that they all kind of hang off of as swings, which is pretty reasonably priced. We would have to certainly involve DPW and get estimates for, what is the labor, what other things do we need? It would be a bigger project, and I'm not tackling that right now. I just wanted you to hear the perspective of they were asking us to engage with them. Like, could you help us put 3 little kid accessible swings in the upper playground at Winter Hill because they have no swings? And then the other thing that really struck me was they talked about Edgerly. You want to talk about what they said about Edgerly, Ingrid?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
That's
What
okay. You don't have to apologize. They said they.
Sorry. What did they
No,
say?
no, I'm going to prompt you. They were
Okay.
talking about the community of children that are there don't have an appropriate play area because I don't know if it was because it was a funding issue or not understanding it or not having, there's a community of children aging up to 8th grade who are on the spectrum. And they were looking for an, come on, you get it from here. You can find the word for me. They wanted us to help them find an inclusive playground or features.
That's right. We were gonna, yes, be researching more inclusive playgrounds and working on spaces that that needed to be more accessible as far, I'm sorry, my cat is losing it, as far as levels and things like that.
So it was specific to the Edgerly School, and I have no experience in understanding the needs of children with autism, but I think that's a great opportunity to be another project for another group within this group to look at how do we research, what do we understand works best, and how do we start sort of integrating or assisting our schools with adding inventory to the schools that is really geared for those unique communities. So it was like a big light bulb of joy of, oh my God, we would love to help give you what you would like. Mike.
And
these
800.
Oh, I was just gonna say, they were also very cognizant that a playground in a school isn't empty when school is not happening. And that really is, even if people's kids don't go to that school or homeschool or private school or whatever, that is still a huge part of the community. It's not just about school, because you go on the weekend and they're jamming. So it's really just about seeing who's in the community beyond who's in the school, of course, which is huge, but also like who lives around the corner who might need it beyond your students. And that's where the visibility is huge. But
thank you, Ingrid. Go ahead, Mike.
Are these $800 swings different than the one that we bought earlier?
So the swing that you saw Miss Carly using, that's the $800 swing. And those are the standard that the city uses.
So if we already spent the $5,000, did we get 6 swings?
We didn't spend a dime yet.
So where did we get the new swing?
The city actually had them in stock. They had a handful as replacements when things break. And they said, the conversation started with, well, we can order them now and you can pay us back. And I said, no, we can't commingle, there's a whole process with our funds. We'll use the same vendor, we'll, follow what you use now, everything to make it easy and to follow within what the city is doing. And then they will install them for us. Because
So we already have it. I apologize.
Don't apologize. It's hard on Zoom. Please go right ahead.
So we already have 6 swings that we could buy with the $5,000. So you have to be clear when you put your motion in, whether we're buying 14 more or we're gonna have 26 altogether.
Okay, very good point. So Any other questions or comments about swings or structures or? So what I'm proposing is we've allocated $5,000 towards swings. Now that we know what a swing costs and we have buy-in as to where they can be placed. And again, we'll be working with DPW and with the city to make sure, you know, they're leading this, which by the way, they're thrilled that we're taking this on. I'm gonna ask that we appropriate $16,000 total. No,
Yeah,
Eight.
for 20 swings, right?
8 times 20, yes, $16,000, of which we've already appropriated 5. So I'd like us to add $11,000 more to our swing budget to bring it up to the $16,000 mark. And what that will do is allow us to buy 20 swings. We don't have physical space for 20 swings, but we're gonna order, my goal is to order 10 at first. Once we approve this, we should order 10. So that will be $7,400. And then it'll take about 3 weeks for them to go through the process, and probably 2 weeks after we'll order 10 more. So I just want to be able to get them coming in as opposed to waiting multiple months, because our kids are going to definitely want to be on these swings soon. They take about 1.5 minutes to install. Hook, easier than a shower curtain that, you know, you have to go like twist, and it's easier than that. So if anyone doesn't have any other questions about us funding some more swings, and again, this is the first step in adding more inclusionary play structures and play items, and it will be a conversation that is collaborative. And I know several of us on this commission really have ties to education and play, and I'd love to pull more people in if they have time, or they'd like to work with Ingrid or someone else about, you know, what do we want to do at Edgerly, or where else should we talk about play structures, or what are the things that have to do with recreation. So please, I don't want anyone to feel they've been excluded in any of the heavy lifting. I'd be happy to share that. And I also think we all have such great ideas, which is partly why we're all together as a team here. So we have 5,000. So Sheila, my brain just shut off. We need
7,000. I'll make the motion.
11.
I make a motion that the commission approves an additional $11,000 for, over the course of the next month or whatever time period, we're able to purchase in 2 sections. Is it
Jen swings,
10 swings each time? Yes, right.
AKA
I'll
Carly
second that.
swings.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say
Sorry,
aye.
that was really complicated. What was the motion again?
Oh, we already have approved 5,000 for
Okay.
swings. And we're currently proposing additional 11,000 to bring it up to 16,000
Yeah.
budgeted.
20 swings, 20 swings.
20 swings. Oh no, that's dance. What is swing? Is this swing? Sign language. This is dance, and I think that's, oh, maybe that's what it is. Everybody loves a good swing. Oh, Laurie knows. Do that again, Laurie.
Dance.
Dance. All those in favor? Aye.
I
Anyone abstaining? Anyone opposed? Beautiful. The motion passes. We shall buy lots of swings.
Sorry, unanimous yes, right?
Yes, sir, Mr. Frank. Yes, unanimous, yes.
I record that properly.
And there will be more collaborating within the commission on other park-like projects. Okay, Sheila, we took care of Red Sox, the balance, scholarships, swings. Oh my gosh, everything. We had something about a Caroline cart, but I think we're gonna have to push that to next month. Because we have about 10 minutes, and I really want to make sure that Harriet can talk about some updates. And Nicole, are you still on the line? Okay, so
I am still here.
hi. Let's let Harriet, if you wouldn't mind, Harriet, I'm gonna give you the floor to talk about our CA updates, communication, collaboration, and accessibility. We're gonna have Nick give an update about some of the work that's been, some of the changes that we've been collaborating with RSJ. Hawken and Adrian have really been helping us get some reformatting, new links. If you, oh, and if you didn't notice, your name is in ink, or I should say it's in air. The names of all of our members are now listed appropriately on our webpage. Woohoo, we all exist.
Nick, do you want to take 2 minutes and I'll take 2 minutes? That's fine with me.
Pardon?
Is Nick on? Is Nick here?
No, Nick's not here tonight.
Oh, okay.
So
Yes.
you and Frank have the floor.
Okay. Well, Frank, you worked with him a bit just in reviewing reformatting, suggestions for reformatting or working
Yes,
on our page.
Yes, that's right. I worked with Nick a bit. He had some ideas as to some I would say sort of minor edits to the SCPD webpage that probably Hawken could probably do really fast. But at that meeting, we also asked for plainer language. So because we noticed that the reading level was grade 23, so that's like postgraduate level. So we requested that, and that was that. I mean, we have not had status since then.
We made some suggestions, did we not?
We made some suggestions,
Yes.
but that was it.
Yeah.
He was going to get back to us.
Hawken was going to get back to us.
No, Nick was going to get back
Yeah,
to us.
okay. Is that sufficient for now?
That was on the website.
Yeah. I will mention that the website is still relatively inaccessible. And I, for one member of this commission, would really like to have a separate website, which I don't know, I don't think the city will sponsor, but in terms of accessibility, it sure would be great. And I'd like to say the following. All in all, I want to acknowledge Frank, because Frank has done 2 research trips to the Cambridge Central Library to look at their Braille embosser setup and to see how it does function. And I mean, you can say whatever you want to say, or if you're worn out, you don't have to say anything.
Yes, so I took a trip there to Cambridge. I went twice, 2 Fridays at around 1:30 in the afternoon. And with my library card, surely enough, I walk into the library, I asked for the Braille embosser. Every staff member seemed to know what it was. Like the front desk person said, oh, go talk to adult services. I went to adult services and said, oh, just go to the tech bar. So I went to the tech bar. It's a place where you can actually borrow pieces of technology, like a Chromebook or a laptop or a DVD player. You can sign it out, and they have sort of it's almost like a fast food restaurant where they have these lit up monitors behind them with a menu of what they have, how many they have, how many are available to be checked out. Anyway, so I talked to the guy, and he says, sure, yeah, Braille embosser, I can sign you in. And I asked how many hours I would need it. Just needed my library card number, brought me to this room that's enclosed in glass. Actually, if I can screen share, I could show you some of the photos that I took.
Go ahead.
Am I allowed to share? Oh, yes.
Great.
Okay.
Are you?
Yes, so I'll just say share, and then I'll just switch over to here. Okay, so it's a room that is enclosed in glass, called the Fuller Room. And let's go to the next image.
I
Yes.
don't see anything. Does anyone else see anything?
Wait, you can't see my, Wait, hold on.
I see the pictures.
I can see
I
it.
see them.
I
can see it.
can see the pictures too.
Okay, it's me. You keep going. I'll figure out what I'm doing wrong.
So yeah, this is what the room looks like from the outside. This is what the Braille embosser setup looks like. It has its own dedicated computer. They put the embosser inside a sort of a cabinet like you might have for like a record player or something. But notice that is sort of soundproofed to some degree. It's not really completely soundproof, but it does help a lot. The computer is a very basic computer. Here's a photo of the embosser. And yeah, this is what it looks like when you're in the room. So there's some chairs, there's a table, so you can work with people in there. So the computer, so it's a very basic computer. It's still running like Windows 10s, which is pretty ancient. So it's a pretty old computer. Doesn't need very much power to run the Duxbury software. And here are the instruction sheets. So by reading these sheets, a library patron could use this embosser. And if they need help, they can ask the person at the tech bar. So here's a readable photo of the directions. I took photos of all of the direction sheets. Here's the configuration of the computer. It's nothing very special. Here's me. I had a Word document from a USB drive, which loaded onto the computer. So here's how you use it. You open this Duxbury Braille translator. Can everyone see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, and then you say import file. You say what you want to translate to, what type of file it is coming from, and what you want to translate it to, Universal English Braille. You say okay, and it will translate it. Now that document is now in the software, in the Duxbury Braille translation software. This is what it's going to look like. It means that the whole document can fit on one page. If it needed multiple pages, you would see like a line that shows the page break, and that way you can make sure that the page breaks are in a good place for the Braille reader.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you do the translate command, and then voila, you get the Braille.
It's on a track feed too.
Oh, okay, and then so now a movie to kind of show how this works. Okay, so you could kind of see that took like 2 pages, and then I click on emboss, and here's a longer movie showing what happens.
Good job.
Sorry about the camera. Going. It looks like it's going. Okay, and it's got track 50 paper. Sorry about the camera work. I was filming with one hand and have to manipulate things with the other hand. Yeah, so it does make some noise, but I mean, I think my voice is about the same volume.
Just a different timbre.
Yeah. So anyway,
But
so
anyway,
that's what it is. I was able to take the printout out. This is what it looks like, and you can see that the dot pattern matches what you see on the screen, which is the desired result.
And what I want to say is Frank went back exactly a week later, just to give an idea. It's not like, I think that.
No one had touched the computer or the embosser since I last used it.
So I don't think it gets under heavy usage. And certainly when ours gets set up, it will be wonderful to have it, and certain certain departments and boards may take advantage of it, but it's not going to be whizzing along, driving people crazy all the time. So, and the other thing that you learned was that PDFs, things have to be in Word form as far
Yeah,
as we can get.
PDFs do not emboss. I mean, it might be possible to emboss a PDF by converting it back to Word, which I actually tried to do that, but it loses a bunch of formatting, so you have to manually put the formatting back in,
Yeah.
which takes some labor.
So that's just a quick snapshot of it. And isn't it great to see these things rather than just hear the words about them, you know? And I did get a slight update, which is was given the understanding that the embosser is currently stored at the library, Central, I believe, and that they're in the process of obtaining a computer to run it. We have the software. So that's as far as we've gotten. And since we're over time already, just about, I think we can leave it for the next time for further updates. Thank you.
Thanks, Harriet. Daniel Wong has hung on for 2 hours, and I apologize, Daniel. I think we need to just give him at least 5 or 10 minutes to speak with us and give him some feedback. So I'm hoping everyone can hang on a little bit more. Daniel, I'll let you introduce yourself, but you made time for talking with myself and Harriet and Frank and Sheila at the Davis Square Library, and you are an amazing listener. And we were all very, very appreciative that you wanted to learn about the needs of persons with disabilities when it comes to parking and different things that many people don't understand what happens when you take away parking in a residential building or in a retail building. And not that was your group did not intend in any way to impact people with disabilities. And again, this is a conversation that we're going to continue to have about how to remain carbon neutral or carbon free, and also inclusive of the needs of all different people. So I hope, Daniel, I've said that correctly. If you'd like to share anything about your project or answer any questions.
Sure. Thank you so much for that very kind introduction, Holly, and thank you and Harriet, and Frank, and Sheila, and there might have been one more person, but I might be misremembering, for taking some time on a weekday to meet with me. Yeah, so my name is Daniel Wong. I use he, him pronouns. I'm based in Inman Square. Very privileged to go to Tufts University. I've been in the Cambridge, Somerville area for the past 15 or so years. Very privileged to live now in Inman Square on the Somerville side of things. I am an organizer of a few with a group called Carbon Free Somerville. We started about 2 years ago, a little bit under the leadership of Larry Yu and some other folks. And our main goal is to help Somerville not nearly be prepared for the climate crisis, which is already happening, but to fight against it by hopefully reducing our overall city carbon footprint. And so that's our intention. One of our main sources of emissions in the city, around 40-ish%, give or take, is from operating vehicles, from transportation. And one of the ideas that we had was, how can we encourage people to use other forms of mobility, low carbon forms of mobility, whether that's biking, whether that's rolling, whether that's walking, whether that's the public transportation system. And one idea we had was to actually disincentivize the amount of drive vehicle miles traveled, to use the term, by making it easier for developers to not be required to build parking. So a developer, when they build a certain kind of building, whether it's a business building, a residential building, depending on the type and the location, they are sometimes required to build a certain amount of parking spaces. Any percent of that by federal law needs to be handicapped parking, but that is a separate thing from the amount of parking required in the building. In March of this year, we started an online petition asking the city to remove parking minimums from the zoning code throughout the city. I should note that they've already removed parking minimums from areas, I believe, a quarter mile from transit areas, mostly the T stops. I don't think we have any other bus depots that qualify. So the city already does this, and we are asking the city to do this throughout the whole city. Developers would still be allowed to build parking, but they wouldn't have to do a minimum, which is currently required. That happened in early March. We currently have around 260 online signatures, but we've intentionally not submitted it to the city because we wanted feedback from groups such as yours. Separately, also in early March, Councillor Burnley Jr., the at-large councillor, and Councillor Bennett Campen, who is the president and Ward 3 councillor, they submitted a resolution asking the mayor to work with them to write zoning to remove parking minimums, which would then go through the normal zoning process. And that passed unanimously in the city council. But that's just a resolution strongly asking the mayor to work with them to craft that zoning. The mayor did send Brad Rawson, and seems like they're eager to do this. Once they do craft that zoning and file it as a petition, it'll have the normal required public hearing, probably go through the land use committee, and many opportunities for public feedback. But that is a separate thing from my organization's online petition. Some things that I learned or was reminded of is just how hard it is for people with mobility challenges to get around this city, whether it's handicap parking spots being too far away from the curb, whether them being removed from certain areas, which you can't count on for unclear reasons, to unfortunately the fact that many of our new T stops aren't reliable, and any of the bridges that happen between the platforms and the trains aren't always there, or the people operating the trains aren't know how to use it. So it's very enlightening. Thank you so much for teaching me so much a couple weeks ago. I think that's just a little bit about me and my intentions. Overall, the goal here that I've emphasized is not to necessarily remove parking, although that is the method that we are approaching here. The goal is to fight the climate crisis by discouraging vehicle usage that is not necessary, that we perceive. The goal is to hopefully make it easier for developers, private or public, to build housing. Any square footage used for parking is square footage not used for housing. And then also to hopefully make our streets safer. Fewer cars on the road makes it easier for emergency vehicles to travel on our roads. It also reduces the chances of a pedestrian or cyclist or other car crashing into that car that is moving. So again, our goals are fighting the climate crisis, hopefully slightly lessening the burdens on public and private developers when they try to build housing, and to make our streets safer. And one of the methods that we've chosen to do that is to possibly remove this requirement for developers to build a certain amount of parking units. That said, we are learning. And so my hope is this could be a start of a discussion. I believe, at least Holly, you have my email. Happy to have a light discussion here, but I also recognize that you have also been on this meeting for a couple hours. So maybe, happy to talk as long as you're willing to talk, but also very happy to meet again through other means.
Daniel, thank you. I really, really do sincerely apologize that we were busy with our checkbook. We had some great things to share, and I do appreciate your patience and your willingness to talk to a group of people who are very who really work to preserve parking and accessible parking. And for those who'd like to have nice, soft, kind, appropriate conversations with Mr. Daniel and ask as many lovely questions as we would like. He really, really is a good listener, and he really is was great to speak with, and he really does represent a larger group of people who are who have the same goals, but also want to make sure that the community can still, especially those with, as you said, mobility challenges, still has the same access and equity. So Mike, you want to kick us off or start us off?
Yeah, no, and again, yes, I do. I think you're I think, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I can't think of the word. Anyway, I'm just wondering, what is the theory behind the idea that if you don't have parking, people are not gonna still buy cars? I kind of don't understand that.
Sure. Well,
Love their cars. They
people
love-
people do love their cars. I think one of the reasons that people buy cars is that the cost of using a car is relatively low compared to the externalities. Externalities, just meaning the cost that other people carry when you use something. So, for example, gas has been relatively cheap. I'll say relatively for some people, and the emissions that come out of those cars, that's a burden carried by everyone, not just the person who used it. Unlike, this is a crude analogy. I didn't study anything of this before, but smoking, yes, there's secondhand smoke, and that's an externality that's burdened by people immediately by you, but a lot of the cost is carried by the person who use it. So cars have their own externalities. And by making it admittedly slightly more expensive to own a car by reducing the supply of parking throughout the city, we think it will discourage. I sold my car 2 years ago because I was tired of getting parking tickets and street sweeping tickets. Now you could say that's the onus on me to pay attention to my calendar, but that recurring cost of insurance, that recurring cost of, once a year, a parking ticket, once a year of street sweeping tickets. Those were costs that I didn't want to do. If I had had off-street parking, then maybe I wouldn't have had those costs. So that's the theory, is that if you make the cost of any kind of complement higher, so reducing the supply of parking and therefore increasing the cost of it, you make the consumption of the related good more expensive and disincentivize it. That said, a lot of people will still own cars. We have around 43,000 cars registered in the city for a city of 88,000. So people still do really like their cars.
Is there any research to back up what you're saying?
Yes, there's a lot of research. We've got an op-ed, and the petition itself has several links. I'd be happy to share it with you. And also the counselors, Burnley Jr. and Benny and Campen, probably also have some research.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for the question.
I see Harriet's hand raised and Sheila's and Ingrid. I'm going to write that down. Miss Harriet, it's your
Just
turn.
very briefly, and probably Daniel, we can follow this up, but because things have switched around a lot. One of the things that's really troubling is back in 2000, when was the Fritt building? 11, 12, 13?
Maybe
No.
16
maybe.
2017.
Well, the thing is, the city
2017.
went supposedly in housing from 6% accessible, low income, not just affordable, 6% to, I believe, 10%, and even got up to 20%, which they have not fulfilled on. So what I think would be really important to look into, and I will write I will write to Ben, whom I know personally for 7 years, 8 almost. And I will write to Willie Burnley Jr. because it's all well and good to discourage parking, but unless the percentage is, those HP places are built into or very close to new construction of housing, they're not much use to people. So that's one sort of outstanding research question. And I also have something very sad to report, that there's a, 10-story building on Main Street in Malden. And they took, I think, even 1 or 2 handicap parking places and made them charge ports for electric cars. Now, that may just be that particular owner, but that's pretty onerous. So I mean, the thing is, it's not as though people with disabilities are out there managing to advocate as vehemently as is necessary. And Cambridge has its own HP parking map. Boston has its own HP parking map. We do not have an easily accessible if it exists, because I have done a bit of research on that. So I think people with disabilities who do have to use, use cars or accessible vans, we need some really significant reassurances that there is not unconscious decreasing of what we need. And it's a ticklish sort of point, It's nice to have a car. And my God, if you had 5 children or even 2, you might think a little differently, Daniel. I've had 2 and raised them. It's difficult, And the other thing that really troubles me is if it were maybe 100 yards to each effective public transportation place, even that would be a stretch unless you were a good manual chair user or you were assured that every bus had a lift. Now, I'm not up to date on if every bus, but I don't know if everyone here is conscious of the fact that there are still lots of green line cars that are not accessible. And even some of the red line and the orange line need a bridge plate. So, public transportation is also a tough game. So this just for things to be thought over that might not have occurred to the group you're working with. Is that helpful, those kinds of pieces of information?
That is extremely helpful, Harriet. I think there's a lot in there. There's a lot of nuance in here that I think is more than what probably want to get into tonight. I'd say the most important thing is when I think about this, yes, I've mentioned the climate crisis. Yes, I've mentioned safe streets. Yes, I've mentioned housing. But what I'm hearing from all of you is you, just like every other human, want to get around this city conveniently, at a low cost, safely, and I'm presuming, for most of you, at in a low carbon way, at least when you can. And my dream is that we do have a functioning, and that's not a functioning, a great public transportation system.
Yes.
That's the dream. The state legislature just released their new budget proposing, I think, 700 million or so, who knows? But we all know that that's a drop in the bucket of what's needed. But also, I've been extremely privileged to travel to Toronto, to Berlin, to Japan, and seeing that these trains are not, it doesn't require nuclear fusion. It just requires actual leadership from our state government. That's a long road, a very long road. Look, I'm even using a transportation word in my description of this. And so, yeah, while we wait to get there, we have to be creative about how do we still allow that convenience, low carbon, reliable, sheltered mobility that we all want.
And I just want to caution you.
Yeah.
If you have a significant mobility issue that you must use a van, it's not convenience, it's essential. That's
understood.
I just want.
It's a right to move around the city. That's right.
Yes, yes. Okay, Sheila, you're up, I think. Is that right?
Yes. I want to just add one thing, sorry, forgive me, Sheila.
Okay.
When I saw this, I had to take a step back at first, and I don't think I mentioned this. What the group is saying is they want to remove minimums. What they're saying is that the city shouldn't be telling new construction for residential and commercial that they have to have a certain parking minimum. But what they're not saying is there will be no parking. What they're saying is the choice of the developer, which will include the financing and other laws that'll integrate into this. So this isn't Daniel and other people saying no more parking in new construction. What they're saying is let's no longer require the builders to have parking. Another person said to me, another city councilor, that the market will determine how successful a builder is if they have no parking or very little parking and no one chooses to live there or work there, or shop there. My opinion is very strong that it's not just the people who live here, it's the people that come here to visit, spend money in our stores, visit their family who may themselves need an accessible parking space. So, when we look at things just from a resident in the city perspective, we're really not including everyone. But I just wanted to clarify that this is not a get rid of. Daniel says get rid of all parking. Daniel and others are saying let's not require parking minimums, and then the decisions are made more objectively. Thank you, Sheila. Go right ahead. And then we have Ingrid and Deborah.
Yeah, just quickly, because we had a great discussion, Daniel, last week or whatever it was, but one of the things you mentioned about costing people more money to disincentivize people from owning cars, the people that hurts are people that don't have an option to not own a vehicle. And with that, what is your group? And you've been very good to to approach us and want our input, and I appreciate that. But what will your group do to try to include the needs of the disabled community in that kind of program? And what Holly said was true, but any developer, if they don't have to build parking, are not going to build parking because it's just costs more money than it's more money to have more residences for them. So, and the market might bear out that people don't want to live there if they don't have parking. But what you're saying is when you build a large complex with no parking, you're saying we only want your young and your able-bodied to live there. Because other people cannot, just can't, because it's necessary for them to have a vehicle. So what is the plan for your group? You're listening, but then what? Will you take into consideration everything that you're hearing to decide what you're going to ask for?
Sure. No. So this is a conversation. I'm still learning. Like I've said, well, one thing, the group is me and another guy with an email. So in terms of our influence on this, it's limited. I'm not a nonprofit. I don't have a budget. The budget is my time and energy. So I just want to say, in terms of developing a program or anything, it's really up to the city and the mayor. The mayor, again, we live in a strong mayor government. But that said, what I'm hearing so far is definitely, some concerns. I think I'd love to collaborate with you all on what a petition would look like that you would find acceptable. I think personally, I still need to do a lot of research. There's some interesting lines between what happens on private property versus public parking on the street. All right, my neighbor just next to me, they have a handicap spot. There's a gentleman there who requires a van for mobility, but that's the streets. That's not on the private land. There's also some interesting interactions with the state building code versus the city zoning code. There's already mentioned federal codes here. And then also, I don't know who in the city decides where any of the handicapped parking spots are on some of the main thoroughfares. So I have a lot of learning to do. I'm hearing your concerns. I think what I need to do is better understand some of the laws and procedures that the city has, so that we could hopefully collaborate on something that makes it easier for you and the people that you love and are the visitors of this fair and city to visit and get around. Again, as I said, mobility is a right, and I want to make sure that everyone has that right.
Thank you.
We have lost several people and technically we no longer have quorum. However, we can ask questions, but we cannot deliberate. But we've also gone way over where it's almost 9:30. And I really wish Ingrid, Deborah, and Nicole could add some comments here.
I have one suggestion. This is Harriet. Excuse me for interjecting. Maybe we can set up another meeting with Daniel, or also obviously share email with him too. So we go for it.
Would that be okay? I'm really
Yeah.
sorry, Deborah and Ingrid and everyone. And thank you so much for hanging out super late with us tonight. I'm gonna put a motion to adjourn. May I
I'm
have
gonna
a
first
second?
interject. Let's thank Frank for 2.5 hours of dictation and
Yes.
see if we can't muscle up 2 people, one person to work on the first half of the meeting and one on the second half. It's just punishing to make one person take all the notes. It's really not fair.
Agree.
So just to
Thank you.
keep. Thank you, Frank.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So I'm gonna motion that we adjourn.
Motion that we adjourn this fair game, and thank you so much, Daniel, and everybody who's still sitting here. Thank you.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Anyone who wants to sit on the phone alone, because Zoom's gonna connect us all. Okay, we are adjourned. Again, thank you, Daniel. We will stay in touch with you and we appreciate you sitting here tonight with us.
Thank you so much for all the work that you do and for sharing your concerns with me. I really deeply appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.